the Pittsburgh Steelers. Joining us to talk more about that, Mark Parson around the corner here on the program. I think with this game, I mean, to me, the Texans, the way I described this in the preview, was the Texans, their biggest problem that they knew they needed to fix and fix quickly is their red zone offense. Because in the playoffs, you got a ferocious defense that's getting you the 3 and outs, that's getting you the pressures and sacks, and not to mention the coverages so that the opposing pass offense doesn't stretch the field. But you still got to be able to put points on the board. I felt like it was cruise control, but yet the defense was able to come up strong, and then it all left out into the end. What did you make of that, and what now needs to be the focal point going into the divisional round on the road in Foxborough against New England, who they too got tested with 5-6 sacks that they ended up having on the offensive side as well. So that's going to be an interesting matchup against the Patriots.
Absolutely. So it's interesting because normally I'm not a really big fan of hiring defensive head coaches. Okay. I like offensive head coaches. I played for Gary Kubiak and then Sean Payton. We were always top 5 offenses. So that's what I'm used to playing for from a team's perspective. Even in college, we played for Frank Solich. He's an offensive-minded head coach. So now with you have Miko, right? I played with Miko. So him being a defensive guy, same thing in offense is always protect the ball, number one. So limit takeaways, turnovers, right? On offense, run the ball, control the clock, field position when you have a strong defense. So I'm, just knowing how Miko is, he was our Mike linebacker when I was with the Texans back in 2009, and just seeing him in his maturation process into where he is now, it's incredible. So defense, when you know the saying, defense wins championships, but offense has to protect the ball, control the clock, and then when it's in the red zone, bro, you gotta punch it in. So no, I'm excited about the Texans. You see, I'm rocking the Texans, right now.
I'll tell you, it's funny because I talked with a former Texan, and you probably remember him, is Amobi Okoye. And I asked him about this with DeMeco Ryans because to me, I love the philosophy he brings. And it was funny because he told me, he was like, when we were on defense, we got into the huddle. He broke everything down, even when we were in practice, when we're just basically trying to play the X's and O's game and trying to figure out our spots. And it was like he was so destined to be a coach because the way he broke down film, the way he broke down schemes, but then there's that culture of that comfortability and confidence with the players. So when you think about that, that's where I feel the adversity is crucial. And DeMeco's like, forget the background noise. Let's focus on what we know that works. And whatever comes at us, we're going to figure that out up into the end until the clock runs 0. So with that, I feel like that's a big crucial spot. And so if DeMeco gets this done and they go into the AFC Championship, Mark, I feel that if I had to look at a coach that's confident, that's strong, understands all of those things, I mean, why wouldn't you want to root for a guy that you know is going to show up? And he's been in the big dance before as a coordinator. So that's where I'm like, I think a lot of that experience could very much pay off in his position.
And then look at let's take a look at his pedigree. And if you think about it, the coaching tree that he comes from. All right. So remember, let's start at the top, Shanahan, right? So Shanahan coached Gary Kubiak out there in Denver, right? Yep. So Kubiak was our head coach. He's a player coach. I don't know if you knew this, but he was the backup to John Elway for 10 years, right? So now he's coaching us, Miko, me, all of our, guys as players. Then you have Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan was the OC at Houston. What's the Green Bay Packers? What's his head coach's name? He was a card holder when I was a rookie. Don't forget about Ceylon, right?
Yep.
So you got Salem. Who else do we have? I mean, you have so many. You have so many. I mean, even Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame, he was coaching. He was playing with us. So you got so many. The pedigree that D'Amico comes from. A lot of people don't talk about it, but I mean, it's elite. So you got all these high level. Ray Rose was there when we were there. So the point is, he comes from great pedigree. He was very. He was one of the best leaders that I ever played with. You know, I was a rookie. I was a young fella, and he was a leader there. But then he plays with a certain tenacity. You know, we had Brian Cushing, and I just remember listening to the linebackers talk because I played DB.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the linebackers talk, man, they were so freaking what's the word? Physical, man. I mean, they used to literally try to knock out the fullback. Like, let's see who can knock the dude out. You know, so I mean, so he brings that tenacity, and the players can feel it. Like when I don't know if you've ever heard, but like. I'm not going to say that a guy has to be a former player to coach. I'm not going to say that. I've heard people try to say that, but I'm going to tell you this. I think it does help because you just don't know how it feels to put your face mask in somebody's chest at times, right? Well, guess what? Miko knows all about it. So they trust him.
You know, it's funny because I think if you're a former player, you've been on that field, you've kind of seen exactly all the experiences that you know. And of course, the NFL's evolved very quickly. I mean, it's pro offense. They're all catered to the quarterback and their style. But at the same time, the defenses have also still have that physicality, even if, rule changes say otherwise on some spots, but it's still the same physical play. And I think, when I look at this and what it requires to win a Super Bowl in itself, because you think about, in your tenure with the Saints, there was a lot of guys that you've been around, played around, and having the goal in which you want to win that big game. And sure enough, New Orleans, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, they end up going and winning the Super Bowl. And it's like, but it took a lot of construction and consistency. So what, in your mind, when you looked at that, and even back in your playing career, what requirements does that usually look like to win a Super Bowl? Because this is the most wide open we've ever seen the playoffs be in quite a long time.
It takes all departments moving all in one, in unison. It takes a unified front to do it. And what I mean by that is let's just talk about on the field. You have 3 phases of football, right? Special teams has to be elite. Offense has to be elite. Defense has to be, everything has to be clicking on all cylinders. And that's how it was in New Orleans that year. I mean, obviously Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks in history, but he had his receivers. They knew the timing was amazing. I mean, we had Reggie Bush. We had certain guys. We had Darren Sproles, certain people. And then Sean Payton. We all knew each other. And it was a beautiful thing. Defense, Jonathan Vilma. I mean, and I'm going to tell you this. We had a veteran team. So I playing for the Texans at that time, playing for the Saints. So when I came in with the Texans, we were a very young team. So we didn't have even our DC and Frank Bush. It was his first time being a DC. Whereas you come over to the Saints, man, Dennis Allen, Coach Dennis Allen was our DB coach. Mm-hmm. And I remember being in the room and we had all these veteran guys and it was more of a collaboration instead of like the coach just talking to you. Dennis Allen could sit back and do that. And now we're collabing and everybody's getting better because everybody's active in the meetings. So this is the type of stuff that people don't see. They just mostly see what's happening on Sunday, but it's just the, just everything working in unison. I'm going to say this. Everything matters though. The training room, the food, how the GM is selecting the players because they're bringing a new guy in every week. That's So a guy like me, who I wasn't a star player, and I'm like, oh man, they're bringing in Chris McAllister. Oh man, they're bringing in Macho Harris. Like, are they going to? So it's everything that you don't see is happening. That's on a good team. It's all organized.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because I look at I live here in Denver. And so when I look at this turnaround of what Sean Payton has been able to do with this team, because first of all, you're dealing with a deadly cap hit for Russell Wilson's contract. You bring in a young quarterback in Bo Nix, who I know is a franchise quarterback, but it does take a level of trust and capability for the quarterback play in itself, because this was the same way he instilled with Drew Brees. So you knew you were going to make the throws. In your experience being around Sean Payton, is defenses altogether, he's had some really good ones from the past when you played, and in this deep Denver defense with adding Andre Greenlaw and Talanoa Funga. So when I look at, because they're going to come up with the big competition in hand with Josh Allen and the Bills. And we know that the Bills have a lot of pressure on their shoulders because this is a year to do it. But when you think of Sean Payton and his game plan and the way in which he goes about in his coaching schemes, what was kind of what you saw from the perspective and the way he carried himself amongst as a coach that leaves me like, if I'm a new football fan and I'm learning about a coach, I want to know I got a lot of trust and instilling that to know he is the guy that will bring this together for Denver to make a run.
Yeah, I have this quote that I like to bring up. Competency breeds confidence. This dude is extremely competent. Number one, he has the experience. He's coached for years. You know, he's coached under some of the greats. He's won a Super Bowl. He's gone to playoffs. He's endured. He's resilient. He's endured, calamity when it comes to the game. So and he's coached different players. So he knows what he knows. He knows what he likes. One of the most important, like the most memorable stories that I would say, or something that I noticed about Sean Payton, because just to give you a little insight, how we had it since he's an offensive-minded coach, defensive guys really didn't talk to Coach Payton like that, right? Mm-hmm. We had Greg Williams, so it was kind of like a team, even though we were all unified. It felt like Greg Williams was my head coach because he was the DC, and then Coach Payton, ran the offense in essence. But his attention to detail when it comes to the stats, like numbers. I mean, he had a percentage and statistic for everything. Hey, guys, if we get to the 23-yard line, our percentages to score with Drew is this. And then it was like, okay, now we know, like, okay, those probabilities, right? Like, like a person in the gaming industry, you understand game theory and probabilities. This dude is freaking smart, and he has all the numbers. So you're like, okay, my percentages, if I do this, okay, so coach, how do we change this? How do we get 5 more yards on our kick return? Or how do we stop him on our punt? So he just understood the game on a high level, like from an academic perspective. It's incredible to watch.
And I think about too, like the corners that I watch, and especially, I mean, the Texans got some great corners with Kamari Lassiter and even with Derek Stingley. And so I know, like when I look back at high school, your 7-on-7s, your colleges, my big thing is like a lot of these young kids, and I've talked to most of them, to where a lot have wanted to transition to be the wide receiver. However, there were some of them that they trained that way, even as a corner, because they're trying to adapt to speed. And then there's that technique and creativity. So I know rules have definitely changed to where now you really have to improvise and really think outside the box sometimes, especially if you're facing the top tier wide receivers. But when you think of building a cornerback prototype, like what are the things that you look for? Technique and footwork, and even just man-to-man coverages, zone coverages, a lot of those things. What do you look for most that gives you the idea, like you're in the scouter's eyes and you're like, that guy right there, when I look at into the draft board, I'm hoping I find this kid and know shut down, does what he does, and he's athletic enough to where he can go up against these top guys. So what do you look for when you see that?
This is a perfect segue into what I do on my side, the DB network. So just to give you a heads up, Jake. So when I got released out of the NFL, I got into I was the first guy on YouTube to post cornerback technique videos and all that good stuff. It used to be called Cornerback Pro. Now we call it the DB Network. Got over 100,000 followers. We got some of the 4-star, 5-star guys. So definitely give us a follow on Instagram. So I've been doing this a long time, and it's really just to help young fellas out. And Derek Stingley. So I remember, I forgot what year, 2016, 17, I don't know, but they used to do the Nike opening one-on-ones and camps and stuff like that. And they would post that, and I would do my critique. And I would be watching guys. I'd be like, I would notice certain guys. I remember Asante Samuel Jr. I'd be like, oh, this is Asante's son. Okay. So I'm watching him. I'm like, he's going to be good, right? League. Derek Stingley. So I'm looking at Derek Stingley, and the thing that I picked out was when it comes to his press man, he was so smooth. So I was like, somebody's coaching this guy, from high school, and he's locking these dudes up. His technique, it was just so sound, man. He could stay square. He had his eyes in the right place. His feet mechanics were great. His hand placement, and then how he finished was amazing. So I was like, oh, this guy's gonna be nice. And then boom, he goes to LSU, and he does his thing, and now he's a high level guy. So I'm looking at, it's so many things that go into making a great corner. Obviously, you got to have the right DNA, right? You're not going to be, Derek Stingley fits that mold. But then you got to have the right attitude and mentality, because guess what? You're going to get beat. Like, so it's a mindset, it's a resilience. I like my corners very arrogant. I want my guys to be like a short memory, like, oh, what? I'll lock this dude down, and then he has to get, I always say 10,000 reps, get 10,000 reps in order for you to become a master. So that means one-on-ones, working on your drills, and having the right coaching and teaching.
So I got a fun fan question here for you, for those watching the show. But a good friend of mine, he actually grew up with your former teammate, Steve Slayton. And he wanted to ask, what did he look like when you would practice with him in the days in Houston? Because, like I said, these were a lot of physical guys that you've been around, but Steve Slayton in particular, like what was he like when you watched him in practice?
You know what the coolest thing about when you make it to the NFL? It's that you've seen these guys on TV playing. Like,
Yeah.
he's older than me, right? I think he got me by a couple of years. And I was watching him at West Virginia ball out, this incredible. And then boom, I didn't get drafted, so I landed on the Texans, and I'm there, and I'm in the locker room, and it's like, oh shoot, that's Steve Slayton. Like, just because you make it doesn't, you're still human, and you've seen these guys, like, oh shoot, I'm tagging off on Steve Slayton in practice. Steve battled some injuries my year, so he was just really fighting to get back on to 100%. But I mean, first of all, incredible person, and then his athletic ability was incredible, man. And he was the guy. So like, Steve had an amazing year previously before me. And then he got injured, and he's just battling back to get there. But I do have a unique story for you when it comes to running backs coming from the bottom. You ready for this?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm an undrafted rookie, Houston. And there's this particular guy by the name of Aaron. Okay, Aaron?
Yep.
All right. So look, here's the funny story. So he was coming out of Tennessee, undrafted. And the thing is, he's very confident in himself, and he's letting it be known. And when they wanted to do the rookie, like, hey man, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And he was like, no, I'm not doing it. I remember Vontae Leach threw his stuff in the cold tub, kind of like, hey, young fella, who do you think you talk, and then he was upset. But the thing is, I remember, like, I thought he was going to get cut because he just messed up a couple times. He's a rookie, but he messed up a couple times. You just can't mess up as an undrafted guy. You got to be, they'll get rid of you any day. Any day could be your last day, right? And I just remember how he was kind of treated, and like how everybody treated him, right? He's a rookie, first of all. He's undrafted. I went to New Orleans, all right? And then I came back the next year, and I saw him, and I'm like, you're the man now, bro. Like, I mean, and he got the single rushing record, right? The single season, he had the most yards. But just seeing him in 1 year, everything flipped, and he was just so smooth, man. And his style of running, his running style was perfect for Gary Kubiak's offense. The zone scheme. You got Matt Schaub, you got Andre Johnson, which Andre Johnson is probably the most athletic human being I've ever been around. So it was just really cool to be around all of those guys.
And it's funny, because I love this every time when I have guests up on the show, whether former pros, athletes in general, and even for, the people that are on the sidelines up and onto the field and they get a good look. It's just, you never know the experience and what you'll be around until you really are on the inside. And then, I love the stories from athletes to where it was like where I built up, where I came from to be in this position, whether it was I was drafted, undrafted, worked through the practices, and such, because it gives you that broader perspective of to really make it. It doesn't matter what path you go through, as long as one, it's always the schedule timing, because coaches always harp up on that. The other part is work on the creativity as you're going through progressions, because you never know, somebody goes down with an injury or a demotion, and now your time is up and onto the spotlight. And that's where it really matters most. And there's no better feeling up and in that, right?
Jake, I gotta tell you, that's man, you just hit it right on the head. So look, when you talking about a long shot making it. All right. So first of all, I was told I was going to possibly get drafted around fifth round out of Ohio University, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, maybe at most undrafted, but free agency. Dude, on draft day was like one of the worst days of my life. Okay, at that time, because man, I didn't hear anything. I didn't even call my agent. I had Deion Sanders' agent at that time, rest in peace, and he was pissed off because he was like, dude, like, so he's making his call. So I ended up going to Detroit Lions rookie mini camp. Didn't get signed. I'm at home. I'm training. It's very difficult. I'm like, do I keep playing? Do I keep working out, or do I go get a job? I'm back home at my mom's house. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And then I said, just keep working. And boom, I get a call from GM Rick Smith for the Texans. He said it's gonna be a trial. You and this guy from Texas. I forgot his name. He's a cornerback out of Texas. So then me and him, but I was in shape. He wasn't in shape. So I don't know what he was doing, but I knew what I was doing. I was doing like 3 days. So we both go at it. Guess what? He's throwing up on the side. I'm finishing through my drills. The Texans signed me, right? Now, here's the thing. Here's who they drafted. They drafted Glover Quinn, who went on to play some amazing ball. Glover Quinn played, he got signed a $20 million deal later on to play safety for the Lions. Bryce McQueen ran a 4.140. This dude could run like the wind, right? So they got drafted. They had Dante Robinson, who was a franchise player. Jock Reeves coming from Dallas Cowboys. He was really good. And then you had some other journeymen, and you had some guys who they wanted to step up. So really, I was not supposed to make that team. I really wasn't. But guess what happened? Dante held out. So Dante did not come back until the first game that we played Mark Sanchez. He was a rookie for the Jets. That was the first game. He didn't show up to the first game. Guess what? I can stay a little bit longer. Jock Reeves, who was the man there, literally broke his leg, all right, in practice, like the first week, like right before preseason, he broke his leg. Now, obviously, I would never want that to happen to anybody, especially, this is your friend, this is your homie now.
Yeah.
But guess what? Dude, so now I'm playing second string nickel, I'm playing special teams, and I'm getting them, boom, end up making a team. So you just don't know, like you said, timing matters, getting lucky, making sure you do your thing, but you just don't know how the puzzle's going to come together sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny, because I mean, I've talked with, Dominique Curry, and I've talked with, AJ Johnson, who he still looks like he's in great shape and he's gotten into MMA, but he's like, look, I still got a phone call away if, you're needing a linebacker, because he was a lot of fun to watch, here in Denver. But yeah, I mean, all the stories and just the experience, like you just expressed, is just, it's by far incredible. It really is. And especially too, like I get a lot of youngsters who watch the show, and just getting that experience to further fuel and motivate to because if you make this your be all end all, go with it full force and full momentum, and don't stop until it's a point of like, okay, what now is like my next career path, and going along with that as you go. So yeah, man, it's incredible. But Mark, I appreciate you for taking the time coming up and on here with us here up and onto the show. If you got youngsters that are wanting to get in touch with you guys, especially with your DBs network, where can they find you guys? Oh, I think did the media cut out? I think it might have. But we'll get a chance to get him to get his ending segment up and down to there. But I think it was incredible. Oh, there we go.
Hey, I'm
All
sorry.
right.
Yeah,
No worries.
right there. Yeah,
no worries. So where can, like, if you've got a youngster who comes on and wants to learn more about just the DB section, and especially with the way you break down to the DB network, where can a lot of the young kids find you and keep in contact with you guys?
Literally just go to IG and look up the DB Network. You'll find us on there. We just interviewed Avion Terrell from Clemson. He's doing his thing, man. We got 4-star guys, and we're just kicking it with guys virtually. We're talking to the parents. Any information that I know, I'm just literally freely giving it away to the guys so that they can be successful in their lives, learn from my mistakes. So definitely just reach out to us, the DB Network. Follow us. We just set up a school account. We got like 900 members in there. It's really cool, man.
There you go, man. I appreciate you. What area do you end up living in? For a friend of ours that is asking on here.
So I'm Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia. There you go. All righty. Appreciate you for coming on by, man. Let's see what the Texans do up on this one, because they're coming in full brute force with that defense. So if they pan it out and they get to the championship, now let's see what the next chapter holds for them, man. But appreciate you for coming on by and sharing your experience, man. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourself, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, there you go.